Okay, everybody ready? All right. Talk slowly. Ready. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to welcome all members and guests to the October 17th, 2023 council meeting. Our meetings are web streamed and televised, so please ensure that your phones are on silent mode. For those attending virtually, please mute yourself when not speaking, and when called upon to speak, please turn on your camera and unmute yourself. Staff in attendance, remember to use your Microsoft Teams hand raise feature. Norfolk County is joining the Ontario Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, as well as AMO and many other municipalities across Ontario and the rest of the province to celebrate Local Government Week from October 15th to the 21st. The week was established to increase youth and public awareness about local government's vital role in our communities. As part of the Local Government Week, Norfolk is reaching out to local students in grades 5 and 10 to share their knowledge and ideas about the county. Grade 5s are invited to send us their picture and essays to be displayed inside council chambers. Grade 10s are invited to enter into an essay contest. Members of council will select the winning submissions, and the winners will be invited to attend council on November 21st at our official council meeting to be recognized for their efforts. For more information on the contest, you can visit our website, which is norfolkcounty.ca/local government week. With that, I call the October 17th regular council meeting to order. And I note that all members of council are joining us today. However, Councillor Huffman is virtual. Approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda for us? If not, Councillor Michelle, changes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm sorry. I thought you were going to ask me to.
Sorry, to do what?
Approve the agenda.
Oh, okay, perfect. Moved. The agenda is approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Michelle, seconded by Councillor Van Passen. All in favor? That is. Councillor Huffman?
I can't hear anything.
Can you hear me, Councillor Huffman?
Yes, I can.
Sorry, just one moment, Councillor Huffman. Thanks for letting us know.
Okay, that sounds better now.
Just having some technical difficulties. Councillor Huffman with the camera. Let's just give. Councillor Huffman, by chance, did you catch any of my message about Local Government Week?
Yes, I did. I get all of that. And then it just kind of went dead silent.
Okay. So we have approved the agenda as presented. Disclosures of pecuniary interest.
Mayor Martin, in accordance with the municipal conflict of interest act, declare conflict of interest with respect to Lehigh drain report 4.1, also item 14, Lehigh drain bylaw 23-2-77. Family members of property owner in the catchment area of the Lehigh drain.
Okay, thank you very much. Just from if
And if those items can be
quickly.
dealt with separately in the bylaw section.
Item number 4 is the consideration of engineers report. Norfolk Council is in receipt of 2 engineers reports for municipal drains pursuant to the Drainage Act. This meeting is to consider the engineers report as prepared by R.J. Burnside and Associates for the Lehigh Drain and the Dirtinger Drain. All affected owners and agencies have been sent notice of this meeting in accordance with the Drainage Act requirements. Assessments will not be addressed at this meeting, but will be addressed at the Court of Revision, a meeting to be scheduled after all reports are accepted. So with that, the first item of the agenda is item 4.1, Lehigh Drain, R.J. Burnside and Associates, Chris Thompson. I believe you're perfect. Turn that microphone on with the button on the right-hand side, please.
How's that? Good. Okay, well, good afternoon, Mayor Martin and councilors. I am Chris Thompson, RJ Burnside, here with Paul McIntyre. The Lehigh Municipal Drain. So Burnside was appointed by Norfolk to provide a reassessment of the 1954 Lehigh Municipal Drain in accordance with Section 76 of the Drainage Act. The primary objective of this report was to prepare a new schedule of assessment for maintenance and repair that accurately reflects the 1954 drain today and the associated land uses and divisions within the watershed. The Lehigh Municipal Drain was originally constructed under a report by Juneau F. LaPlante dated April 14th, 1954. The existing drainage system is comprised of a main drain and 2 branch drains known as drain number 2 and drain number 3, as depicted on the plan on the screen. The total system is approximately 5,267 meters of open drain and is located northeast of the town of Teeterville. Upon review, the watershed area contributing to the Lehigh Municipal Drain is approximately 2,165 acres. The overall cost to repair this report, including site investigations, watershed plan, assessments for future maintenance, and cost distribution, is $30,250. These costs have been divided evenly amongst the properties in the watershed. As a result, each property has been assessed $250 for the cost of this report, as seen in Appendix C.
Thank you very much. Does any member of council have questions regarding the report? Councilor Breton.
Yes, just very, so I'm clear here, that there's 300 and something hectares that come across the Brantford Road. Is that new, or is that, has that always crossed the road there? Going back in your letter, the original letter from the page if you want. I just wondered if it's a new addition to the drain. It's basically a maintenance job, it looks like to me.
Yeah, that would be correct, maintenance.
Right. But it is there a new addition to it at the same time, or has it always been
There's no new addition to the system.
catchment area?
There has been a change to the catchment area. Like I said, the latest report is from 1954. So in order for LaPlante to determine the watershed, he would have likely tried to walk the extents of that outer black boundary. Today we use LiDAR.
Yeah.
Have a lot more detailed analysis, and there is in discussions with Bill, we did find a culvert that crosses Brantford Road there.
Okay.
So it does, we believe that it does bring in a significant amount of water.
So that's what's going to trigger the reassessment then.
That is part of it, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions from members of council? Okay, with that, I would open it up to the public. If any member of the public has questions with regards to the engineering report, you can come on up to the podium, state your name for us. Seeing anyone? Sure, come on up. Hit that button on the right-hand side on the front and let us know your name, please.
Yeah, so my name's Daniel Fernandez. Going to Mr. Brunton's question. I don't know if I missed something, but that culvert has always been there. I'd say in the last 6 years, it got upsized. Significantly took a lot more water down the whatever watershed into the Lehigh drain.
They're coming up. Okay, final calls or anyone on the line? Not that I think there is. Okay. This report is under section 76 of the Drainage Act. So at this time, council has a couple options before us. First being that we accept the engineer's report, and we do this by giving first and second readings to the provisional bylaw in the bylaw portion of our agenda. Or we stop the proceedings and can have Mr. Mays speak to any ramifications that may include, but I'm not seeing any major objections. So with that, do I have somebody who wants to move a motion to receive the engineer's report as information, moved by Councillor Breton, seconded by Councillor Vanendriessche? Questions, comments, debate? I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item 4.2, Dirtinger Drain, which is also Chris. Whenever you're ready.
So the Dirtinger Drain is a drainage system that was last constructed in 1967. And it's comprised of a main drain and 8 branch drains. It is a combination of both open and closed systems servicing agricultural and residential lands to the northeast of Delhi. In total, the watershed area contributing to the Dirtinger municipal drain is approximately 718 acres. Upon review of the existing system, it was found that it has approximately 25% of the capacity recommended by current design standards. It was also found that the current tile system is in poor condition, with multiple bloats along the course of the main drain and branch drains being found during the survey. An initial on-site meeting was held in March of 2022, with a follow-up information meeting held in February 2023. During the information meeting, an improvement to the entire municipal drain was presented to the property owners. The general feedback from the meeting was that only a portion of the drain needed immediate improvement, and the other portion could be approved in the future. The improvement for this, or to prevent the need for an additional drain improvement project to be completed in the future, the improvement for this project was broken up into 2 phases. Phase 1 includes the work to be completed now, which is everything except branches F and I, while Phase 2 includes the work to be completed in the future at the request of any affected landowner.
Okay, questions from council to Chris. Councillor Columbus.
Once the work is done, how long do you expect everything to be in proper order? Once the work is completed, according to what you've provided from your engineers?
I would say once the work has been completed, the system should work right away.
But how long do you think it would be before you'd have to go in there and do something again? Like, this drain's been in here since the 1950s, right? So that's been a long time, but how long do you think it would be before you have to re-maintain it after all this work is done?
I would estimate, give or take, probably about the same time from 1967 till now. Call it 50 years.
Councillor Vanendriessche.
Sir, thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. You had said that you need to fix what has to be fixed, and then the farmers or the landowners can, if they have an issue, then they can come on board. Is that correct?
You said the last part again, I missed that.
So, excuse me. So if you fix what immediately needs to be fixed, and then later on, if there's an issue, then that comes back to us, or the landowner gets to appeal and says, we need that section fixed. Is that how that works?
I believe they would, because it's all being done under this report, they would reach out to Bill and then we could tender the phase 2 as long as this report is adopted.
Bill's nodding his head yes. So any other questions from council members? With that, I'll open it up to questions from the public with regards to the engineer report. Going up to the podium, state your name. Anyone on the line? Okay, this report falls under section 78 of the Drainage Act. So at this time, council now has 3 options. 1, accept the engineer's report. We do this by giving the first and second reading to the provisional bylaw and in the bylaw portion of our agenda. 2, we can refer the report back to the engineer for changes to the report. It does result in further engineering costs. If this is council's wish, we need a mover and a seconder and specific direction as per what part of the report is being referred back. And 3, stop the proceedings. But if that's council's decision, we'd have Mr. Mays speak to the ramifications of that. So we have a motion attached to the report, and those options are before council. Is there a mover and seconder for staff's recommendation? Councillor Columbus, seconded by Councillor Brunton. Discussion, debate, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item number 5, we have no early closed session. Consent items. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder to receive consent item 6.1 as information. Moved by Councillor Duthie, seconded by Councillor Michele. All in favor? Carried. And deputations. We have 1 on the schedule today. That's item 7.1 on the agenda. And that is from Scott. With regards to agenda item 13.2.1, the development application 395 Queensway West. Just give us 1 minute and we'll clear out. Thanks. Whenever you're ready, you have 5 minutes.
Great, Madam Mayor, Council, thanks for having me here today. So as the Mayor indicated, here to provide a deputation for item 13.2.1. So the development on the Queensway, which is obviously a proposed development there, mixed use commercial residential development. We obviously council been provided the information in the staff report at the public meeting, and again as part of this council meeting. So I guess from basis, it's an exciting development. I think it provides a good redevelopment of that part of Simcoe. Obviously here to provide support to the staff recommendation in the report and can answer any questions that council might have. But I think beyond that, there were specific items that were discussed during the public meeting. I do have a letter here from the applicant specifically regarding electric car charging stations and then a commitment in kind to Ride Norfolk. So I do have a signed letter here from the applicant that I can distribute to council. I do have lots of copies, yes. Good. Yeah.
In the meantime, are there any questions for Scott with regards to 13.2.1, which we will discuss later? Okay, seeing none. Thanks, Scott, for coming before us, and thanks for the follow-up with regards to some of the points that were raised at the public hearing meeting. And I don't see any hands for you, so I think we'll leave it at that, and we'll circle to the question. Yep, when we get to the report, we'll circle back, so. Okay. Thanks, Scott.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Thanks, Council.
Item number 8 on the agenda is presentations, and we have none. 9, we have 2 communication items listed on the agenda. Does any member of council wish to pull any item for further discussion? Okay, mover and a seconder to receive items 9.1 and 9.2 as information. Moved by Councillor Huffman, seconded by Councillor Columbus. All in favor? That is carried. You can see everybody is feverishly reading that note. So why don't we go through the agenda and then we'll take a quick recess because Councillor Huffman's going to need a copy as well, and we'll break to be able to read it. So item point 10 is approval of minutes, which we have 3 sets of minutes before us today. September 19th council meeting, council workshop of September 25th, and special council meeting minutes of September 25th. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Vandendriessche, seconded by Councillor Brunton. All in favor? Carried. Reports of Committee of the Whole. October 4th, public hearing committee meeting minutes and council and committee meeting minutes of October 11th. Mover and a seconder? Councillor Berry and Councillor Michele. All in favor? Carried. And Advisory Committee. Health and Social Service Advisory Committee, July 24th, 2023, Norfolk County Public Library, August 23rd, 2023, and Economic Development, August 29th, 2023. Mover and a seconder? Councillor Vandendriessche, Councillor Huffman. All in favor? Carried. Staff reports and discussion items. Leads us to 13.2. So it is 1:21. Why don't we just take a break until 1:30? We can read that report, make sure that one gets sent to, this attachment, and make sure one gets sent to Councillor Huffman and come back at 1:30 proper. Okay.
Sorry, my headset must have muted. My apologies for that. Yeah, I was calling to
to help my presentation. So the subject lands for these applications are located at the northwest corner of Windsor West and Horse Street North in the urban area of Simcoe. The subject lands are currently designated commercial, hazard land, and provincially significant wetland, and is zoned service commercial with special provision 14.627 in the Norfolk County zoning bylaw. The applicant is proposing an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment to facilitate the development of a mix of commercial and residential uses. There are two parts of this development. The first one is a 6-story mixed-use building on the southern portion of the subject lands containing 114 studios, 1 and 2 bedroom units. And this will be on floors 2 to floor 6. And the ground floor will have 2,740 square meter of leasable commercial space. The total parking would be 166 underground for residential units, 136 surface parking space for visitors and commercial parking. And as you can see in the screen, the upper portion of the development consists of low-rise residential development, and that will contain 38 3-story townhouse dwellings with the rooftop amenity spaces and 6 2-story semi-detached dwelling units. The density of the northern portion of this development would be 22 units per hectare, and the density for the southern portion, which is the mixed use commercial, would be 101 units per hectare. The purpose of the official plan amendment is to change the land use designation for the northern parcel from commercial, hazard land, and provincially significant wetland to urban residential, hazard land, and provincially significant wetland. In regards to the southern parcel, the official plan amendment proposes to keep this designation commercial with the residential development above ground floor. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to amend the zoning of the northern portion from service commercial to urban residential type 4, with existing special provision 14.627 being removed and replaced with the new special provision 14.1039, and that will be to increase building height from the required 11 meter to 13 meter and a reduced rear yard from 7.5 meter to 3 meter. For the southern portion, the zoning would remain as service commercial with the special provision 14.627 being removed and replaced by special provision 14.1039, and that will be for increased building height from 11 meter to 30 meter or 6 stories, a reduction of residential parking from 1.5 space per unit to 1.25 space per unit, and a reduction of commercial parking space from 1 space for every 30 square meter to 1 space for every 35 square meter. As part of the complete application, an environmental assessment impact study was submitted. Within the ESA, it was outlined that both phase 1 and phase 2 were conducted. The study outlines that there is a contamination throughout the southern portion. Further studies, remediation, or environmental risk assessment will be required. As a result, planning staff have recommended that a holding provision is applied to the subject lands and a record of site condition be obtained, provided to the municipality in order to leave the holding. The statutory public meeting for the development was held on September 6, 2023. At the public hearing meeting, there were questions from member of councils. Some of the questions related to the condominium structure, the environmental considerations, clarification of parking reduction request, location of visitor parking, brownfield consideration, and contribution of public transit. Council posed questions surrounding the location of previous gas pump on the subject lands, and staff did some research, and from 2020 back to 1964, we did not see any evidence of a gas pump on the subject land, so exact location of the pump is unknown. In regard to the environmental consideration, the agent outlined that the ESA provided as part of the complete application. As a result of the outcome of ESA, it has been outlined that more remedial works on the subject class will be required. For clarity, Council asked what those remedial works may entail, and it was outlined that the remedial works will be identified through further studies. And as I mentioned, that the holding provision will confirm that all remedial works are completed. At the public hearing meeting, committee also asked the question regarding the potential of subject class to be considered as a brownfield development. At this time, we did not receive any application, and the brownfield designation will be required to get council's approval. So we don't have any initiative at this moment on this. Council had questions about the location of visitor parking for the proposed development. As I mentioned, it will be on grade. In addition, Council also asked the clarity about parking reduction for the mixed use portion. As I mentioned, it will be from 1.5 meter to 1.2 meter per dwelling. The council followed up with the question of potential contribution to county's public transit system as a compromise. It is staff's opinion that any contribution regarding that would be an overall benefit to the entire community. We understand that there is a proposal provided for a 30,000 cost limit for contributing to the enhancement of public transit, including transit shelter. Potentially, it will be the ownership of the county, including the bus stop signage and concrete pad for shelter and accessibility. But this would be also considered in the site plan stage as a potential condition. It is staff's opinion that the proposed application meets the intent of the Planning Act and the Provincial Policy Statement 2020 as they encourage intensification and infill development like this, introducing higher density residential growth with mixed opportunities of different mixed uses of residential development. This application increases the amount of housing options available within the community, will contribute to county's current and future housing targets. Therefore, staff recommends the approval of the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendment as outlined in the report. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mohammed. Questions from council to staff? Councillor Breton.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Martin. My question, looking through the the comments from staff, and I was wondering, we spoke quite a bit about allocation of water and wastewater, and I'm wondering, is there a clause in these agreements for a time frame? And the reason I say that, like, we've got a lot of things in the queue, and I'm sure they all want water and sewer. So how is that going to be dictated to or covered off in the agreement?
So, Madam Chair, to the councillor, these applications are related to official plan and zoning bylaw amendment. At this stage, we are not confirming any allocation of municipal water or sanitary services. That will be done through the site plan application stage. So, at this time, we are not allocating any servicing. Hopefully, through the site plan application, we will confirm that.
When they get to site plan and the terms and conditions have been met, allocation is granted with a 3-year timeline.
Through the mayor, that's correct. So there is a standard clause for agreements, development agreements, site plan agreements in this case, and there is a certain time frame on it. So that's where the actual allocation for water and wastewater is committed, and then there is the time frame that agreement applies to. And so if you want to consider that as a use it or lose it, otherwise the agreement would have to be renewed.
You spoke briefly too before about an extension on the 3-year term. Is that still going to be? The reason I asked this is, and it was quite familiar in the past, where some developers get everything done, rezone, and then they wait and they sell it. But we got the economy now the way it is with interest rates and that. Somebody's got to build and sell all these things in that 3-year period. What if things don't change? Like, can they extend it, or how are we going to deal with that?
Through the mayor, so there's not too much that we could do as the municipality between the time of zoning approval and then the developer actually moving forward with development. We could encourage, of course, but when they are ready to go ahead and build, that would be the time. So there's not too much we can do there. Once they are ready and they have the commitment from the site plan agreement, then there would have to be an amendment to that. There has to be an update or an extension, and that's renewed annually.
Now, and I'm not that familiar with the provincial requirements now, but is there a time frame for the next step for site plan? Does that all come into play now?
Through the mayor, it's up to the applicant for the site plan. As soon as the site plan is in, the legislative time frame that we're sitting at now is 60 days. So once that application's in, we issue a decision in 60 days, and then it moves forward to doing that agreement, which would include the clauses that we're speaking about.
How long does he have to get the site plan? Sorry, I missed that part.
Through the mayor, the time frame between any land use approval and submitting a site plan application is up to the applicant anytime.
So it can be delayed as long as they want?
Through the mayor, that's essentially up to the owner developer to move forward with the site plan development at the time that they are ready. And as soon as they're ready, then we will meet the timelines and get it through to the decision.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Yeah. I have a couple questions. I'm just looking for staff comments. Oh, sorry, Councillor Huffman, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. I don't have a question per se, but I just wanted to say that I received the copy of the email from Scott Plandre, and I just want to applaud the developer and for his interest in the community and looking at our transit situation and making that commitment to Ride Norfolk. It's nice to know that we've got developers in our community who are willing to work with the stakeholders and make things better for all of those residents who will be hopefully living in those units in the future.
Great point. Staff, can I get a comment from you on the documentation that was shared with us today? So one, it's not in the public agenda, so we've got and it will be added, I'm sure, but that the developer is committed to earnestly evaluating various electric car charging options as part of the site plan development and application process. And further, an additional commitment of $30,000 in kind to Ride Norfolk to be held in trust to install a future Ride Norfolk stop with the immediate proximity to the proposed development. So can we get a couple comments on that from staff? What does the 30,000 roughly get us, and any comments with regards to EV charging?
So, Madam Chair, that amount was also included in the staff report. I think this application was actually reviewed by our other planner, Fabian, who communicated with the engineering and I believe with the road as well. There were some background works done on this. I can tell that the implementation of transit stop at the subject lands, I mean, it was found it would be appropriate considering there are two other bus stops. In between, there is almost 1.6 kilometer gap. So location wise, that might be appropriate. Staff also identified that there is no road widening or bus lane will be required because we already have 2 lanes at that stage. And also based on the consultation with engineering, I believe, and also with the developer, probably that amount was identified as a, I mean, considering the future inflation of the price as well, considering if it has to be confirmed in the site plan, then it might take another few years, 3 to 5 years to implement that. So all those considerations are included, and based on the cost estimate is done. But again, I mean, at this point, that contribution is not confirmed, and the only tool probably we have is the site plan agreement where we can include that, and at that time we can also further review the amount.
add anything?
Through the mayor, yeah, the amount that's proposed should be sufficient for a concrete pad, transit pad, the transit shelter, the seating, signage, etc., and anything else that may be needed for Ride Norfolk. It's definitely something that would be a significant assistance for supporting basically transit support and also transit-oriented development in our community, which would be a great step forward in Norfolk, which also will give people some transportation choice in addition to having housing choice. And so they'll have additional options. And the closest you can get a bus stop to a person's front door, that is what you can do from kind of the public authority and from the developer to give people that choice so that they have that. So this is a big step forward. So we really appreciate that from the developer. At this point in time, and it does help in the consideration with the mixed use, the shared parking, the reduced parking proposal. And then as Mohammed indicated, that would be through the site plan. I think they indicated on electric vehicle charging stations as well is something to look into at the site plan stage. And once we get down to the building permit as well, that's something we can't enshrine right now in any kind of decision from council and the zoning, but is a good step forward to look at and some commitment in the letter at least that helps us when we get to that site plan stage. And so it's thanks to our public hearing committee and council as well for raising these matters.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it might not be enshrined in agreement for staff, but it certainly is enshrined in agreement up here for council. So I really appreciate the letter coming forward from the developer. And I also appreciate Scott's work on this after the public hearing meeting. And I think that the development community should know, you know, we're a pro-development council. There's not a lot of humming and hawing that goes on around this place. We know that we need to provide housing options for the public and all that comes with that. But although the province may be whittling away at what we can ask developers to require, we just asked nicely and had a developer deliver. And so this is my new minimum standard for all developers in the community. $30,000 can go a long way to put an additional transit stop in front of housing and create active transportation for our community. So thank you very much, Scott, and to the developer. With that, there is a staff recommendation. Councillor Columbus?
Yes, I wonder if we could get a comment with respect to the technical comments that were made by staff on number 8. Development engineering currently does not support the servicing strategy submitted with this application. Could we get some verbal discussion on that by our staff?
Good afternoon.
Hi,
Hi, to the mayor, to council. Yeah, so these comments were prepared prior to public hearing, and we haven't had much interaction with the current applicant about any future servicing. There was a meeting at one point where they discussed the idea of severing the lots and that there'd be sort of like communal servicing. So we haven't had any further direction on how they plan to service in the future. And so as we understand, this will be settled through site plan approval. There isn't any limitations that I'm aware of at this time that we cannot supply services to 2 separate developments at this time. It's just how they propose to service the developments.
Thank you. I'll wait for that.
All right, final call on questions. Staff recommendation is before us. Is there a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Duffy, seconded by Councillor Berry. All in favor? And that is carried. Councillor Huffman, that it is carried. Okay, item 13.2.2, which is the Norfolk County Road 21, Andy's Corner, CD 23064.
Thank you. And we'll turn over to Hannah for the brief overview of the recommendation report. Hannah?
Thank you, Brandon. I'll just pull up the concept mapping. Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. The subject lands are a lot having no civic address with an area of approximately 80 acres at the intersection of Highway 59 and Norfolk County Road 21. It is currently used predominantly for agriculture, as are the surrounding lands to the north. And to the south is the hamlet of Andy's Corners, wherein single detached dwellings are the predominant use, with an exception to a small restaurant, which sits across from the subject lands on Norfolk County Road 21. Regarding planning policy, the land subject of the application are designated hamlet, whereas the remainder of the parcel to the north is designated agricultural. The entire lands are zoned agricultural, and there is an overlay of significant woodlands to the east. The proposal today for consideration is to rezone the subject lands from agricultural to hamlet residential with a site-specific provision, a special provision to permit a reduced lot area of 0.22 hectares or 2,200 square meters. The effect of this application will be to bring the subject lands into conformity with the underlying official plan designation of hamlet and facilitate the severance of 3 lots for single detached dwellings on private services. As part of a complete application, the planning department received a functional servicing report, general plan of services, hydrogeological study, grading plan, and traffic impact study. A public hearing committee meeting was held this month on October the 4th. And as noted at that time, technical comments received were limited. We did receive some general comments from development engineering, outlining some requirements for drainage considerations and the dedication of a site triangle to be addressed at time of consent for parcel A. There was one comment received by a member of the public indicating some concerns with traffic and agricultural preservation. And we also had 2 questions for clarification raised by council regarding the location of the entrances and just a confirmation on impact of agricultural land. With that said, planning staff are recommending approval for council's consideration today. Thank you for your time, and I am available for any questions.
Thanks, Hannah. Laura, questions from council to staff? Seeing none, pretty straightforward. Mover and seconder for the moved by Councilor Van Andrucci, seconded by Councilor Van Passen. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Item 13.2.3 is the county grant policy and the program revise, which is CD 23091, which was deferred.
Thank you through the mayor. We have a brief update report from where this item was at committee to council. There was a number of questions that committee members had, and so the report includes some follow-up information. We've also updated the report recommendation within there as well. And essentially what we are recommending is that the establishment of the formal approval of the policy changes for the new program, along with the establishment of the selection committee, is conditional upon the 2024 budget approval, and that the amounts, the 2 financial amounts, be referred to the 2024 budget so that council can consider that in the context of everything else that we are grappling with and dealing with as part of the budget. We heard quite a bit about that at committee. What we would endeavor to do is, and Matt McGinty's here, we've got the templates ready, we've got the process ready, we've got the application package ready. And so pending any budget approval, we could then move forward with the timeline that was outlined in the staff report for completing the program. And that program is aligning it with Norfolk County's strategic priorities. So we're here for, if there are any questions to that, we've got Matt here as well.
Questions? Councilor Columbus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wondered, we're looking at 6 council advisory committees, selecting a member from each one. I just wanted to make sure that our representation is across the whole county of Norfolk and perhaps not just focused in one area. And did you take that into consideration at all?
Through the mayor, so we would be looking at the representation across the advisory committees so that we get that a bit of that cross section. So you've got economic development advisory, you've got agricultural, and so on. And I think they will take that into advisement when the clerks is helping us set up that group, that we look at some geographical balance where we can, if that is of assistance.
Thank you. I'm pleased to hear that.
Councilor Berry.
So thanks. I know I had a lot of questions last time, and I do appreciate all the effort that went into answering them here. So thank you very much, staff, for doing that. I do have a couple more questions, quasi suggestion, I guess, or whatever. But with the specific annual grants, was there any consideration given there to just winding them down now for this year's budget? So I see you've got a declining guarantee. I mean, these organizations can apply for grants under the normal terms. So I guess my question is, why are we not asking them to do that if we're revamping the grant program now? Why not just do it all and get it all done?
So through the mayor, that is something that staff did explore. We looked at a range of options, including that this was it, and we're moving forward with a new revised program. We looked at whether or not we maintain it throughout this next 3-year pilot, and then that was it. Staff landed on the tapering off approach. It gives these groups that have been receiving this annually for a significant length of time some time to make the adjustment of planning. Some of them may already be looking at their programs that are coming up in the upcoming year. And so if we were to change that right now, perhaps if it happened after 2024, we're definitely open for council guidance and decision on that. We did look at different ones. We thought this was a good balanced approach to put it on notice and start to taper off, including the last year, I think, is 0.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I could see, I guess, maybe leaving it for 2024, but my just personal view, I'd prefer it to be just one more and done, just so we can get everybody on the same. So I'm not giving that direction, but I'm sort of saying as a one voter on the table, that would be my preference, just to get it done and get this all moving forward. I had some questions too about the application. Is this final or is it a draft still?
This is still a draft, and we will be happy to take any guidance.
Yeah, so I'm not going to guide, but I'm going to ask questions and you can take for what it is. But, you know, you've got that section that says if they're in good standing with the county, and I understand that. Was any consideration given to whether or not they're showing debt though as well? Like I know a lot of times with grants that they say, you know, if you are in debt, they will not fund because they don't want any grants going towards sort of paying those debts and then, you know, buying time while other money comes in. So I'm wondering, had that been considered? Because that is a red flag and a no-go for most granting organizations.
Through the mayor, completely, we did give that consideration. So there are clauses within the new policy stating that these funds must be used for specific projects, as well as a request that they must submit their most recent financial statement or budget for the year. And part of that is within our purpose is to make sure that these groups are competent and stable to distribute the grants, but too as well. So
yes, I did read those things. So there is no specific, you know, anything that says if you're in the red, we will not fund. Like we would give a grant to somebody who's in the red, then a group that's in the red.
Through the mayor, if the selection committee deems that the project that they are applying for is valuable and the funds used for that project makes sense. Yes.
One of the questions you had there was, does your organization provide monetary grants to others? I guess I will make a suggestion on this one, just to consider maybe not that monetary grants, but it includes donations. I feel like we'll have some of these groups that says, that's not a grant, it's a donation we make. And so I don't know how specific you want to make, but I think the intent was if the money is going from one organization to the next, you're trying to avoid that. I feel like monetary grants might give some of these groups a misunderstanding that since they don't actually award grants, they make donations, that's still an eligible cost. And I wanted to make sure we were clear on what the intention of that was, I suppose.
Through the mayor, we actually removed that clause because through the working group, we felt that if part of standard business, say a Lions group or another charity conducts fundraising and does give donations, we don't want them to not be able to apply for a grant for a specific project. The goal here is that Norfolk County funds through this grant program are not used to give grants to others.
I understand that. Matt, what I'm getting at is on the application as it is right now, there is a question that still says, does your organization provide monetary grants? It's not that it's forbidding it, but you're asking that. And what I'm saying is that a grant and a donation, to be clear on that before you sort of specify one over the other.
Through the mayor, yeah. And I think that's just to be able to take in consideration just to see what they do. And I'll make that note as well.
Okay. The last one I have is actually it's 2 questions down from that. Does this project unnecessarily duplicate a successful existing project? I don't want to take out unnecessarily because from their point of view, it's going to be necessary to duplicate that project. So I would just ask as a duplicate. But also, it says a project offered by Norfolk County. So just to be clear, are we only trying to avoid competition with Norfolk County's municipal initiatives, or is it any other group in Norfolk County that is also doing that and they're duplicating that initiative?
Through the mayor, it was to not duplicate successful programs or initiatives conducted by Norfolk County.
So hearing that, then Norfolk County Grants Committee would then they may consider a grant for an organization that is duplicating an existing project that is run by another third-party not-for-profit, and we would be okay with that?
Through the mayor, I don't know that we would definitely be okay with it, but it would all come down to the merit of the application and how it's received by the committee and what they determine at the end of the evaluations.
Well, as long as those things were considered and that's where you landed, fair enough. Thank you very much, man.
Any further questions from council to staff? Council Duffy.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, and through you, just I'll be brief to staff. I see in here the recommendation was to include members of the advisory committees, and I don't mean to presuppose an opinion of the council, but I know that there is an agenda item later today for the establishment of another advisory committee, and I'm just wondering if we should be more generic about a member from each of the advisory committees.
Any other questions? Okay, there's a recommendation before you. Is there a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Columbus. Moved, seconded by. Sorry, Councillor Huffman. Perfect, thank you. Any further debate or discussion? Okay, I'm going to jump in for some debate. Thanks, staff, for all of your effort on this. Like I said last week, it's been considerably cleaned up and parameters have been added to this. There may be room for improvement as we go over the years, but we won't know unless we go. And I think that, you know, little by little, this is a couple $1,000s here and there for community initiatives and parades and events and festivals. So I'll be supporting this and certainly looking to add it into the consideration at budget time as well, when we have, you know, more of the big picture. But I really want to thank you for the work on this because it has been years of discussion, and this is a great jumping off point. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item 13.3.1 from Environmental Infrastructure Services, we have the St. John's Road Traffic Review and Analysis, EIS 23062. Mr. Grice.
Thank you. And through the mayor, this report was a late addition to the agenda, and that is because this study just wrapped up. We wanted to ensure that any of the recommendations from the study were brought forward to council before they showed up in the capital budget deliberations, which kick off next week. So the report itself stemmed from a deputation that occurred back in the summer of 2022. It was related to traffic accidents and the desire for safety measures along the St. John's corridor in Port Dover. As a result of the deputation, we've added additional signage, flashers, rumble strips at the intersection of Cockshut and St. John's, and that is working quite well to date. But also at that time, council directed staff to complete a full and thorough traffic review of the entire corridor. So that has been done, and I'd say the key observations from the investigation done include average speeds along that corridor near the intersections range from 88 to 95 kilometers per hour, with about half of the vehicle traffic driving in excess of 90 kilometers per hour. So likely not a surprise to anybody here. The speeds are at that rate, and while not reckless, they certainly do constitute speeding. We have investigated the sight lines, and everything there is adequate for the road's design speed. Road signage is appropriate. We are making some minor tweaks and replacements right now. And turning volumes at the intersection of Blue Line and Cockshut are high during peak times. So based on all of this, the study is recommending traffic signalization be warranted at St. John's and Blue Line and St. John's and Cockshut, along with proper turning lanes. So to that end, we've added money to the 2024 capital budget for design and $2 million to the 2025 capital budget for construction to accommodate these requests. And again, we wanted to make sure you had the opportunity to see this before it came forward as part of budget discussions next week. So with that, Mike and myself are here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Andrew there. Thanks for the report and all the work there, Andrew. Appreciate it. I got a question there. It's Tisdale is not included and was not included in the report, at least. Was any investigation or any work done with that intersection? Because I know that there's been some concern from the residents nearby, and I know that Mike had an opportunity to speak with at least one of them, if not a couple. So I'm wondering, where did Tisdale fall away?
I'll let Mike speak to that.
Thank you.
Yes, through the mayor, we would have reviewed the sight lines there, but not the volumes. The volumes, because it's only a three-way, it would not meet any of the actual high warrants. But we did review the sight lines there, and there were no issues on the sight lines.
Okay, and then so just following up again on some of the issues that were raised by the residents at that corner, and again, I know that you spoke to the mic there that there's some requests to me and I assume through to you for caution signs for farm vehicles, just so that the trucks that are ripping up and down there are aware that that is an area that is traveled by some of the farms. Is there anything that we can do about that? Just making some awareness that there's going to be slow moving vehicles and that those heavier vehicles that have a harder time slowing down should be aware of them.
Through the mayor, yes, for certain we can look at that. I know when I spoke to the resident out there, there were issues during certain hours of the day where there'd be high volumes of people going around that road. They'd be passing as well too. So yeah, we can look at what would be required there for signage for the slow moving vehicles.
So do you have a sense on whenabouts that could be? Because I think, certainly not to take away from the report, but I think that some of those smaller issues were certainly hoped for by the residents out there in this report. And so I've heard from a couple that are concerned that that's going to be sort of forgotten. So I'm not trying to put you on a spot of saying, we'll have it in 3 weeks from Tuesday, but is that something that we're going to be able to do in the near future? Some of those smaller things like the caution signs?
Through the mayor, yes. I will work with our roads operation staff. I know they're out there now. We're actively replacing and moving signs. So if there are signs warranted for the slow moving vehicles, we can add those probably within a month.
Okay, Mike, I really appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to passing along the news that they've been heard and that something's going to be done there. Thank you so much.
Councillor Van Andriesch, then Brunton.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, I have a general question to staff. The roads operation staff goes out and do you look at road situations per request, or are they on the road all the time? So I'm trying to see if there's situations that can be mitigated if there's issues.
So I can certainly start off through the mayor. So that is something, I guess this is kind of between Bill and I know Bill is not here right now, but Bill is kind of the boots on the ground from a roads perspective, and Mike and our team look after kind of the more of the construction. But we are going through roads need studies now, sign studies as well to identify where we have deficiencies. So we are doing our own due diligence to rectify that, but we also rely on feedback from the community. So we do have a number of things that be brought up through yourselves as councillors to ourselves or to staff. They get discussed at our road safety committee and then implemented. So there are a number of paths, but yes, we are out in the field trying to do our due diligence to make sure everything is signed appropriately. But we can't be everywhere all the time, so we do rely on the input from our community as well.
And just if I may, just to further to that question then, do you take statistics into account? Say, for instance, if there's significant accident numbers at a particular intersection that you send them out to take a look at. Can something be done to mitigate that?
Through the mayor, absolutely. And I didn't refer to those statistics, but they are in the report for the review of St. John's, for example. We do work with the OPP to look at collision statistics, severity of the collisions, and certainly that is evaluated as part of our recommendations.
That's perfect. Thank you very much.
Councillor Breton.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. I guess through you to Andrew or Mike. So those two intersections we're referring to here that we're going to engineer, did you do like full warrants on those? It determined that they needed signals, I guess. And I'm asking that because what happened on get this straight, the Blue Line and St. John's, where we did the rumble strips and the bigger signs and lights and everything, did not working?
So through the mayor, I'll let Mike respond to that, but you are correct. We did do some implementation immediately following the deputation, and they are working, but based on volumes, certainly more is required. But Mike can speak to the specifics.
Just for clarity, that was on Cockshut Road.
Yes, Cockshut. The rumble strips and the flashers were on Cockshut in St. John's intersection.
Yes, thank you. Through the mayor with, thank you. Through the mayor with regards for the warrants for the signals. Yeah, we actually looked at those. We analyzed those. So they do meet the warrants for either all-way stops or for the signalization.
Did you do that in-house, Mike?
We did a little bit in-house. I sort of screened them ahead of time, but to verify them, we went through Paradigm and they actually produced a 20-page report, which I didn't think I wanted to share as part of the report, but we certainly have that. And yeah, they vetted it.
So, question on, I say both intersections. Was the accident history quite high?
Through the mayor, I think in the report we said there were approximately 13 accidents in a 5-year period. Sorry, I'm just scrolling up, but it is in the report. Just bear with me.
Got it here on page
4. Yeah, there were.
So through the mayor, there's 41 accidents at the intersection of St. John's and Cockshut alone in the last 8 years.
Thank you.
And as a reminder / refresher, this was on the heels of a deputation after a fatality. So staff went with the rumble strips and as you identified. Councillor Van Passen and Duthie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I read the stats too. There's 41 accidents, but 20s were hitting animals, and their animals are not going to stop for red lights either. But my question is about the intersection of Highway 6 in St. John's, and I know it's not included in this report, and it's mentioned that's the MTO's problem, but have you had any discussions with MTO about that intersection? Because I think the need for that stoplight on Highway 6 has been there ever since Stelco was built, and we keep talking about it, and it's been 40 years, and there's still not a stoplight there. And I think that adds to the, it's personal opinion, I think that adds to the speeding, because you spend 10 minutes sitting at that intersection, you finally get across, and now you're going to make up for lost time down St. John's. So I wonder if you could follow up with a bit more discussion on MTO and their future plans.
Yes, through the mayor, I'd be more than happy to share this report with ministry staff, and I will follow up with them on any recent intersection volumes that they have for Highway 6 and St. John's Road. So I will follow up with the ministry on that.
So Duffy.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, and through you to staff. Just I was going to pick up on the same thing what Councillor Van Passen did about the 20 of them are with animals. So not sure we can do a whole lot about that. Just a question. I think it says in there that if we were to put in these traffic control measures, stoplights, let's say that, it's also recommended that we would have designated turning lanes. I'm just curious if we are therefore required to have them, or it's just suggested that we do.
Through the mayor, that would come out of the RFP if approved by council. We would do further analysis and just figure out if the lane was actually warranted. So we would have to do further studies there to see if it would be warranted.
Sorry, through the mayor, if I could just add to that. So, I mean, that is the reason we have this in front of you today is because it's want to form part of the capital budget discussions, but there are still some unknowns from our perspective. So we have flagged that turning lanes may be required. They may not. And if they're not, then certainly the cost of these changes will be greatly reduced. But we wanted to make sure we had everything in front of you today before we have the discussions. And yes, certainly there are some accidents related to animals, but traffic signalation also does help with that. I know animals are not going to stop, but if you're driving down the road and there's a traffic signal ahead, it does create better awareness. And if you're more aware, then you're less likely to actually hit an animal. So it's not going to eliminate them, but it certainly will also help in that regard.
I have one question, maybe for Mr. King. So it's identified, the stretches, the corridors along the road, but what I wonder if this study is just, if it gives the terms of reference for the study give any leeway to give consideration to the pedestrian traffic that crosses over St. John's from Lynn Valley Trail, which is right before Blue Line. Like, I've often thought about that, and that is a very scary area to cross because bikes all of a sudden come out, or pedestrians, and at that point you've already came through the intersection of Blue Line, or you're heading towards it and you're coming downhill. So was there any room in this study to identify areas of concern there? Was it considered at all?
Through the mayor, I guess the short answer is no. We did not look at that. There is advanced signage in advance of the trail, but I will say that if we do proceed with installation of signals at the Blue Line, there would probably be a reduced speed zone in advance of it each way. So that would probably help in that area.
What about additional road painting to create the crosswalk across St. John's? Is that something that we'd be able to do?
The road painting, through the mayor, the road painting would not be advisable unless it was signed accordingly.
Okay. Would it be possible to have staff just high level investigate that prior to budget and see if there's a huge deviation to add signs and paint in that area? It might not even be warranted, but I just would like to, if we're going to give consideration to the whole stretch of road, I'd like to be able to tell the public that that was considered.
Through the mayor, yes, that's something that we can look at.
Okay. Any other questions or hands? Staff recommendation is before you. Moved by Councillor Columbus. Thanks. Seconded by Councillor Berry. All in favor? That is carried. We have no reports for operations. We have no reports under corporate services, and we have no reports for Office of the CAO. So we'll start with bylaws, giving consideration to separating them out for Councillor Columbus as well. 14.1. Does any member of council wish to speak to any of the bylaws before us? And 14.1 is the, we've already done that. Dirt and dirt drain. Okay, may I have a motion to read bylaw 2023-76, being a bylaw to provide for drainage works for the dirt and dirt drain for a first and second time? Be moved and seconded by Councillor Berry and Councillor Vandendriessche. All in favor? Carried. And then Councillor Columbus, we're going to go along with the Lehigh drain here. A motion to read bylaw 2023-77, being a bylaw to provide for drainage works for the Lehigh drain a first and second time. Moved by Councillor Vandendriessche, seconded by Councillor Micheli. All in favor? That is carried. And then the following motion to approve the following bylaws: bylaw 2023-62, bylaw 2023-72, bylaw 2023-74, 2023-75, and bylaw 7 OP 2023-27Z-2023 and 29Z-2023. Moved and seconded by Councillor Huffman and Councillor Berry. All in favor? Carried. And motions. We have one motion today. Councillor Berry, item 15.1. Would you like to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I guess I'll reiterate what I said last week. So we have advisory committees at Norfolk County for, I guess you could say groups or demographics that are large or significant to our operations, and council wants to hear from them, and we do regularly. And so I think that with certainly in Port Dover, with our population is probably approaching, if it's not surpassed, 50% seniors, and I know that there are other communities around Norfolk doing that. I think that how Norfolk County engages and makes decisions, that's one more lens it's worth considering. So I would like to ask council's support to direct staff to investigate whether or not I'm onto something here, and if this is useful, And if it is, what the cost would be to add another committee for us to review and then present that information when we consider our budget. I do know that, Norfolk County already provides several services to seniors and makes, effort to go out and do these things. I understand that we're working on some sort of, senior friendly community project right now. So it seems like a good time to form a group of seniors to advise on our decisions moving forward. So with that, I would like to move the motion as it is there, that we direct staff to investigate the cost and usefulness of establishing a new advisory committee that addresses the needs of senior citizens in Norfolk County in time for consideration and inclusion in the 2024 budget.
Seconder, questions? Councillor Vanadrishi.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. The intent here is of Norfolk County, so when you're thinking of a committee, you would think that there would be equal distribution so that we have members from all the entire Norfolk to contribute to that.
Of course. I mean, ideally it'd be, at least one from every ward. If we can get volunteers to show up, recognizing that, might not be able to get someone, especially the first time. And I bet you from Simcoe and Dover, you'll get lots of applications. We'll only get one or none from a smaller ward. So yes, the intention is it's countywide that addresses not just, urban centers, but if there are seniors issues in rural areas as well, we need to hear about it, I think.
Exactly. If I may, Madam Mayor, I would be in support of this motion as long as the demographic covers the entire.
Okay, yep, no debate, just questions right now. Any other questions? Councillor Huffman?
Thank you, Mayor Martin. My question is, I guess, how do we ensure that this doesn't duplicate services that are already out there in the community? The one that comes to mind is the Haldeman Norfolk Senior Support Services. And what would be that we would be looking at doing differently from that program?
So through the mayor, back to Councillor Huffman, I'm not looking for a committee that provides services. I'm looking for an advisory committee. So I just want to make sure that Norfolk County, when it's making decisions, hears from that demographic as here are what seniors need and expect and how to make our communities more livable, I guess, more accessible, I know we have accessibility committee, but some of those senior issues are different. So it's not about providing services, it's about providing a voice for a rapidly growing demographic in Norfolk County that I believe deserves consideration when we make decisions.
And you don't feel that on the advisory committees that we currently have, we have bodies there to speak to these issues at the individual advisory committees?
I don't think that we have advisory committees that are specifically asking some of the questions that might come up if we had a seniors advisory committee. And I don't think that it's a matter of that they wouldn't. I just don't think that necessarily comes up because, I'm not gonna. Seniors are often left sort of behind or not as considered as they could be when we're talking about the busy things that we all have to do. And I think that, they have an opportunity to do those things. Are they? I don't know. So it's not about hearing from senior citizens, it's about hearing specifically about senior issues as they arise in Norfolk County.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification.
Question is similar to Councillor Huffman, so I don't want to be redundant, but I guess my question would be, without knowing kind of what the terms of reference you would suggest be attached to it, are you able to give some examples? I'm struggling to see how we're going to take it and action those items. Are you able to speak to ways that the municipality would be able to action items if this committee was formed?
Absolutely. So there are, provincial standards, I guess, that go along with age-friendly communities. And a lot of other municipalities have age-friendly community plans. And we do not have one currently, and I understand that staff has applied for a grant and is maybe currently working on something. But I think, as the province continues to recognize them, so should Norfolk County. So it may have to do with things that include anything that affects seniors in a way that is different than it would non-seniors. So recreation could be one, accessibility could be one, connectivity to the community, reducing isolation for seniors that live in rural areas. These are all, substantial things that addressing them or reducing some of those barriers can not only improve quality of life, but it also reduces things like elder abuse instances and those types of things. So I think it's not that Norfolk County is not doing a good job. It's more about, as we consider the lenses when we make decisions, that hearing a senior's perspective on things. So what are the action items? I don't know, because I'm not a senior, but I do work with the senior center in Port Dover, and I know that there are concerns about, like I said, recreation, activity, internet access, how to even use the tools that are available. So I think that these are things that when staff or when council is making decisions on how to divert resources and how to direct staff, that if hearing that voice is important.
Councillor Columbus.
I would think we need an allocation of clerk's department time in this. So could we get a comment from the clerk's department on this proposal? Or perhaps Mr. Mensis, CEO, could comment on it.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I mean, the motion is to refer it back to staff. That's something we'll certainly look at. I will say that at the beginning of this term of council, we did make some decisions to consolidate committees. Part of the recommendation and the decision to consolidate some of those committees were as a result of resource challenges as it particularly relates to clerks, but others as well. And so that's something that if this council decides to refer back to staff, that's something that we'll certainly explore in the report back to council.
Okay, Councillor Berry.
So to clarify, I'm not asking council today to vote that we're going to establish this committee. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking council to give direction to see, is it worth doing and is it viable for staff to do? That's all I'm asking for today. So I just want to be clear that, yeah, it's not today we're going to start the seniors committee right now. Can we at least talk about it and get some thoughts from staff? Is all I'm asking for.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor. Is there a seconder? Councillor Michelle. Is there any debate or discussion? Okay, I guess my comments would be that I really actually appreciate this motion, but I'm concerned that through accessibility committee, the recreation committee, it's not the right name, but we already have, when you mentioned connectivity, we have telecommunications, that's what it is, committee. We have the senior center in Simcoe and Delhi that work with staff, although that's not inclusive of the entire county. And so I almost would rather see, although we just did it, our existing terms of reference under our existing committees have language that includes specific seats being held for seniors on all of them, instead of the creation of a new committee that I don't fully understand if the terms of reference yet would serve the municipal mandate. And it's very possible that they could, but in an effort, I guess, to keep resources streamlined, staff just came to us with a report to bring our committees down. I'd rather see specific seats held on the existing committees we have, heritage, and so on, for seniors. And I would probably argue, I don't know, but I would venture a guess that a lot of our committees are made up of seniors already, just based on the type of participation and the cohorts of retired individuals we have in the community. So I think it's a really great intent, and I like where Councillor Berry is going. I would just almost, I want to be able to see the recommendations that come out of committees come to this table and be adopted and be actioned. And so I'm not going to support the motion today, but I would be in support of staff reviewing our existing committees and adding specific seats for seniors on them. Councillor Michelle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess just for clarity, I don't believe we have a telecommunications committee anymore. I think it was one of the ones we eliminated. But nevertheless, I certainly take your point, and I'm also concerned about, some possible redundancy. I might even include the Mayor's Affordability Roundtable, which I think will also have a lot of senior members, seniors who are members. But I do believe that the mover is simply asking us to consider some information when we get a little bit more detail about what it would cost and what it might look like in terms of reference. At that time, we can make that decision. So for that reason, that's why I'm seconding it.
Councillor Van Passen, and then Councillor Berry.
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. I sort of agree with your opinion, but I also understand the motion. That may be the recommendation that staff bring back with the report that the councillor is requesting. So I will be supporting the motion, and then we'll deal with that when it comes back. And I think that the idea is correct. How you implement it is what we got to figure out. I'll be supporting the motion on the floor.
Okay, Councillor Berry.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. What I'm hearing is that I need to go back and draft some terms of reference. I'm happy to do that. I didn't do that now because I don't know if that's treading on staff's territory or not for me to present a set of terms of reference like that. I could advise, whatever. So I guess what I'm getting at is if staff wants to talk to me about terms of reference as we go with this, I'll happily bring, even some people from the senior center in Dover, and we can talk to the senior center members in Delhi and Simcoe too, and just say, look, broad strokes, if this was going to fly, what would you want? So if that's what council needs me to do, I'll happily go work on some terms of reference. I'm willing to do it.
Thanks. Councillor Duffy.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. And through you, just briefly, I will be supporting the motion. I think that while certainly there are some synergies potentially to other committees that already exist, I can also see some opportunity where some of those can actually work together on certain initiatives. Recreation probably being a great example of that. What I am curious about, and I hope that Councillor Berry will be able to provide some further information to staff for inclusion in their report, is related to the senior-friendly community. It sounds to me like there is a framework of things that need to be considered, and that might be perfectly good actionable items that this committee could bring forward to council. So I appreciate the sentiment that's been brought forward in this motion and look forward to supporting it. Thank you.
8 before I call the question. All right, with that, all in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thanks, Councillor Berry. And notices of motion, we have none. Other business, general announcements. Councillor Huffman.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. This is under other business. I was contacted by a member of the community today in terms of a request for Norfolk County to fly the Israeli flag. I thought I would bring this forward for discussion and see where we landed on it. Just doing my due diligence on behalf of the residents.
I guess I'd turn that one over to staff because we have a flag policy, or it could be notice of motion.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we did receive a request from a council member this morning or last night, and staff are looking at the request as it relates to our existing policies. We'll have some information for council shortly.
Thank you very much for that information.
Any hands? Is there anything from staff? Okay, general announcement, Councillor Duffy.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Sorry, give me one quick second to bring this up. I think all of council did receive an invitation earlier today. The Downtown Simcoe BIA, in coordination with Heritage and Culture staff, are doing a public event related to the refurbishment of the bandstand. It's taking place this Thursday, October 19th at 4 p.m. There will also be a plaque dedication to Larry Dawson at that event. So if council members are able to attend, the invitation is in your inbox. And I look forward to being able to celebrate the work that's been done there, because the park does look certainly a lot better. The bandstand looks better. The lighting and benches are in there is great as well. So
we're done budget. Councillor Columbus.
Yes, James Street reconstruction in Delhi is finally coming close. And I saw this morning the Hydro One is there getting rid of those hydro poles that were planted in the middle of the sidewalk that I got lots of phone calls about. Maybe that's happening today and this week, and it'll be looking much better. Also, just a reminder, this same stretch of road, I had a call today from former councillor Ryan Taylor, who indicated to me that it's like
a bit of a freeway there. He's very pleased to see this work done. And he had indicated that be careful because that's one of the areas where we're going to have the speed enforcement cameras set up. So just a warning to everybody about that, because it is easy to go over the speed limit in that area. It's also a 40-kilometer-an-hour zone in front of the Delhi District Secondary School. The other thing I wanted to mention was that the People Care Center in Delhi is under construction. The groundbreaking is taking place. Dozers and equipment in there. And it's a 128 patient long-term residence that's under construction at the south end of Delhi.
Oh, Councillor Michelle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to mention, because I don't think we've made too much public mention of it, that the long-awaited bridge on County Road 45 is complete. It looks fantastic. I just want to commend staff and all of the construction company that put it together. That is a very, very impressive and long-awaited project that I believe, unless staff can correct me, is complete. Thank you. I got the thumbs up from staff. It is totally complete. Very nice structure.
Okay, not seeing any other hands. So moving along, we have no closed session items. So that leaves us with our confirming bylaw. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder for a motion to approve bylaw 2023-78 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council. Moved by Councillor Michelle, seconded by Councillor Van Passen. All in favor? Carried. And Councillor Huffman is moving adjournment at 2:38 p.m. seconded by Councillor Duthie. All in favor? And I'd like to thank staff for our nifty little signs on our desk congratulating us on our almost 1 year anniversary of council. So great job. It's been a pleasure to work with you all for a year, and thanks staff for all you do, and let's do it 3 more times over. Have a great day.
Thank you.